When tariffs hit small businesses, who actually pays the price? In this heated exchange, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand presses Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick on one critical question. Where are the refunds for Americans already feeling the pressure?
Senator Gillibrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Help us wrap up.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. So 3 topics I want to address: quantum, manufacturing, particularly MEP, and the tariff refunds. So I'm going to try to get them all in. So on quantum, I sit on armed services and I sit on intelligence. I understand there's been huge investments by lots of private sector companies, but nothing can replace American dominance with having that capability in-house. Because when you're talking about a private sector participant, they can sell their technology to China, to any adversary, to anyone. They don't have the national security priority embedded in their entire architecture. And we will risk losing being ahead of many issues that are important for national security. So I would urge you to revisit your exuberance for the private sector, because it puts us in jeopardy of not being first mover in a space that is essential for national security, for encryption, for winning the next war. So I urge you to meet with national security personnel, particularly Senator Reid and I, in a classified setting, so that we can make the case that we are making a strategic error here. So I just want to tell you that, because the cuts to NIST, the cuts across the board are hugely problematic, and I do not think this is an area where you should feel comfort that the private sector is doing great work. We need to bring some of that work in-house and keep it in-house. Point 1. Point 2, tariffs. I've traveled all across New York. People are very anxious about the cost of everything. When you look at small manufacturers, when you look at any small business, these tariffs have been like a ton of bricks on their ability to make money, to stay open, and to continue to provide. I would like to know, what's your plan for getting refunds to our small businesses, refunds to our people, to the American citizens who've had to pay more? Because right now, tariffs have driven up costs so significantly that it's put many businesses at risk and in peril.
The process of refunds is run by Customs and Border Patrol under Homeland, and it's their process, and they have a significant process they're undertaking, but that is not the work of the Department of Commerce.
What is your perspective, however, and what are you advocating for in regards to our small businesses, manufacturers, and people who have paid the price of these tariffs?
If you build in America, you don't have to pay the tariff. And the benefit of building in America, as you know, in New York, when we were there opening the $100 billion Micron factory in the state of New York, they were driven by the tariff policy of semiconductors. So building in America is driven by that tariff policy. And importers, I understand, don't like it. But those who manufacture in America and hire Americans,
but you know,
they like it, and they like it.
No, they don't, because the reality of manufacturing in America today is that many of their inputs come from abroad. So, for example, a lot of our lumber comes from Canada. A lot of other particularly manufactured pieces might come from any ally or any other place in the globe. So manufacturing is highly complex, and it was created with an idea that the world was much flatter than it is today, with an idea that supply chains were inviolate. We know that's not true post-COVID, but tariffs on key allies like Canada can cripple manufacturers that are domestic manufacturers because their inputs come from an allied country.
Bringing in manufacturing to America, we've been hollowed out. Our manufacturing has been hollowed out. It's been sent overseas. Canada has the advantage of USMCA. They have the best tariff deal in the world. They just treat us unfairly at every margin they possibly can. And the president is out to try to fix that and to reimagine it. But the answer is, make your products at home and you have no tariff.
It's just very hard to do that quickly. And so since there is going to be a benefit when tariffs are changed, that benefit should go back to the manufacturers and the small businesses. Second, if you believe that, then why are we cutting the MEP program, the Manufacturing Extension Partnerships? Those are the job creators that allow for these manufacturers to train their next generation of workers. And in New York State, we have 10 MEP centers that created nearly 33,000 jobs over the last 5 years and contributed $7.6 billion to the economy. I just don't know why we're cutting these programs. That seems extremely unwise given the challenges we have.
Unfortunately, you weren't here to hear what I said before, but the Inspector General has taken great exception with many of these programs. The program was started in the late 80s for advanced manufacturing. I don't take issue with figuring out how to do it right, but when it's been done wrong, it needs to be cleaned up. There were all sorts of reports about excessive compensation and those statistics. The Inspector General challenged the statistics and said they weren't right. I think if we got it right, we could find a way to do these well for America.
Well,
But right now we haven't gotten
I would
it
urge
right.
you to come to New York, and I will show you how we got it right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Gillibrand, in your absence, I announced we're going to ask the IG to come talk to us as members of the committee to find out the challenges or difficulties that they discovered, if they did, that the Secretary talked about, and work to get a MEP program that is satisfactory to all of us.
This exchange highlights a real tension in economic policy, one that often gets lost in headlines. On one side, you have Senator Kirsten Gillibrand focusing on immediate impact. Her argument is grounded in what small businesses are experiencing right now: rising costs, shrinking margins, and uncertainty. When she says tariffs have been like a ton of bricks, she's pointing to the real-world effect of policy decisions that, while strategic, can hit hardest at the ground level. Her push for refunds is essentially about relief. If businesses and consumers have already absorbed higher costs due to tariffs, shouldn't there be a mechanism to balance that burden? On the other side, Howard Lutnick presents a long-term strategic view. His core argument is simple: tariffs are meant to drive domestic production. If companies manufacture in the U.S., they avoid tariffs altogether. From that perspective, tariffs aren't just a penalty. They're an incentive structure designed to reshape the economy. But here's where the clash becomes real. Gillibrand points out a key flaw in that logic. Modern manufacturing isn't isolated. Supply chains are global. Even companies producing in the U.S. still rely on imported materials, like lumber, components, or specialized parts. So tariffs don't just hit foreign competitors, they can also increase costs for domestic producers. That's a critical insight. It shows how economic policy isn't always clean or straightforward. What looks like protection on paper can create pressure in practice. Then there's the debate over the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, MEP. Gillibrand defends it as a job creator and economic driver, while Lutnick raises concerns about oversight and efficiency. This reflects a broader policy pattern. Should government invest more to support industry, or focus on fixing inefficiencies first? At its core, this exchange isn't just about tariffs.